Hello and welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is February 3rd, 2026.
It is indeed.
And, if you look out the window, depending on where you are, it's a normal Tuesday. Maybe it's snowing, maybe it's raining. But if you look at the calendar, you can feel something looming. It feels like we are standing on the edge of a cliff.
That's a very dramatic way to put it, but I think, culturally you're spot on.
We're just a few months away from the expanded 2026 World Cup right here in North America. And the reason I wanted to do this deep dive today, it isn't to talk about, the U.S. men's national team roster or who's going to upset who in the brackets.
There are a million podcasts for that.
A million of them.
Yeah.
No, I want to talk about why the world is about to go, for lack of a better word, completely insane.
And insane is, it's barely hyperbole here. We are looking at a phenomenon that, according to some of our sources, literally bends time.
Okay. Explain that, because that sounds like something out of science fiction, but the data actually backs it up, doesn't it?
Yeah. It absolutely does. Every 4 years, we see this measurable distortion in global reality. I mean, stock market trading volume plummets during big matches.
Food traders just stop trading.
They literally stop trading to watch screens. Industrial productivity takes a noticeable nosedive. But I think the most incredible metric is conflict. We have documented cases, like the 2005 ceasefire in the Ivory Coast, where civil war literally paused for this.
I remember this story. This was Didier Drogba.
Right, exactly. It was Drogba. The entire national team, having just qualified for the 2006 World Cup, they went on national television right from the dressing room. They got down on their knees and begged the warring factions to lay down their arms.
And it worked.
And it worked. They did. The power of this tournament, the shared joy, it actually stopped bullets.
It's a secular pilgrimage.
That's the perfect phrase for it. It's billions of people synchronizing their attention, their hopes, their fears on a ball rolling on a patch of grass.
So our mission today is to kind of take the hood off this engine. We're not analyzing the offside rule.
No. We're analyzing the mechanism of the event itself. We're going to look at the mass psychology, why your brain chemistry actually changes when your team loses. We're going to dismantle some of the economic myths that, mayors and presidents love to sell us. And we're going to get into the geopolitics of what they call soft power.
I was going through the prep notes, and there are three things I desperately want to get to. First, why a loss feels like a literal physical punch in the face.
Okay.
Second, this soccernomics formula for who wins and why. And third, you have to tell me the story about the shoebox.
The shoebox is, hands down, my favorite piece of trivia in all of sports history.
We'll get there.
Yeah.
But let's start with the context. It's February 2026.
Yeah.
This coming tournament is going to be massive, 48 teams.
The biggest expansion ever. It's effectively taking over the entire North American continent, Canada, the US, Mexico. It's a huge undertaking.
But the funny thing is, looking at the history, this global juggernaut started as, a total disaster. We assume the World Cup has always been this gold-plated perfect event, but the origin story is just incredibly fragile.
It's an absolute miracle it survived the cradle. You have to go all the way back to Jules Rimet. He's really the father of the World Cup. He was the FIFA president back in the 1920s.
And you have to remember the context of the 1920s.
Oh, context is everything. Europe is a graveyard. World War I has just completely shredded the continent, and Rimet has this very noble Parisian dream that sport can somehow heal these scars. He wants a global tournament to bring nations together through competition, not conflict.
It's a beautiful idea. But Rimet was a bit of a romantic, wasn't he?
Very much so. He truly believed in the civilizing power of sport. But the reality of launching this thing in 1930 is it's not noble at all. It's logistical hell. They choose Uruguay to host the inaugural tournament.
Which, on paper, that makes sense. Uruguay were the Olympic champions twice over. They were the team to beat at the time.
Right. They were without a doubt the best team in the world. But geographically, for any European team, getting to Montevideo in 1930 meant a grueling 3-week sea voyage across the Atlantic.
No jets, no Zoom calls to coordinate schedules, just 3 weeks on a boat.
And that's just one way. So you're asking players to take, 2 months off from their day jobs?
Because they weren't all professionals back then.
Not at all. These were mostly amateurs or semi-pros. They were factory workers, clerks. They risked losing their jobs back home to go play soccer in South America for 2 months.
So what happened? Did anyone even show up?
Barely. It was a bust. Only 13 teams participated in the end. It's still the lowest turnout in the history of the tournament. The big European powers, Italy, Spain, Germany, England, they all ghosted. They basically said, no thanks, it's too far, it's too expensive, we're not doing it.
Wow. So how did they get anyone to come?
Well, Uruguay actually had to offer to pay the travel expenses for the teams that did agree to come. It was the very first act of what you could call football diplomacy.
It sounds more like, please come to our party, we'll pay for your gas.
That's essentially what it was. They paid for the BERT tickets. There's this famous story of a ship, the Conte Verde, that sailed from Europe. It picked up the Romanian team, then the French team, then the Belgian team, and even Jules Rimet himself with the trophy in his suitcase, all sailing together down to South America.
Like a little floating United Nations of soccer.
Exactly. And the vibe of the tournament itself, I mean, when you read about the final match, it sounds less like a professional sporting event and more like a chaotic playground dispute.
Okay, so this is the final, 1930. It's Uruguay versus Argentina.
Right, and you have to understand, the rivalry between these two nations right across the River Plate it's beyond intense. Thousands and thousands of Argentinians cross the river to watch. The tension is so unbelievably high that the teams cannot agree on which ball to use for the game.
Wait, the ball? As in, the physical object they kick?
The actual physical football?
Yeah.
Yes. Argentina insisted on using their Argentine-made ball. Uruguay said, no way, we use our Uruguayan ball. They genuinely believed the other team's ball was lighter or heavier, or that it gave them some kind of unfair advantage. It stalled the entire game.
It sounds like two kids on a playground. I'm taking my ball and going home.
It was exactly that level of argument. So the referee, who must have been a master diplomat or maybe just terrified of a riot breaking out, he came up with a compromise.
What was it?
He ruled that they would play the first half with the Argentine ball and the second half with the Uruguayan ball.
You're kidding. Let me guess, did it actually make a difference?
This is the crazy part. Argentina was winning at halftime 2-1, having played with their ball.
Okay.
Then they switch, and Uruguay comes back to win the game 4-2, scoring 3 goals with their ball.
Unbelievable. So the equipment actually mattered, or at least the psychology of the equipment mattered.
Exactly right. But that fragility, that near failure, it didn't stop there. The tournament gets going, and then boom, World War II hits. The whole thing is suspended for over a decade. And this is what leads us to the shoebox story.
Okay, set the scene for me. It's the 1940s. The Nazis are systematically looting art, gold, and cultural treasures all across Europe.
Right. And the Jules Rimet Trophy, the original cup, not the one we see today, is in Italy because Italy had won the previous tournament back in 1938.
Okay.
So this Italian football official, a man named Ottorino Barassi, he hears that the Gestapo are seizing gold and precious metals, and they are specifically looking for the trophy.
Because it wasn't just a trophy, it was made of actual gold.
Solid gold, sterling silver plated with gold to be exact. If the Nazis find it, it's gone. It'll be melted down into bullion, or, it'll sit on some general's mantelpiece as a war prize.
So what did he do?
Barassi goes to the bank vault in Rome, secretly takes the trophy out, and brings it home. He wraps it in old rags, puts it in a dusty old shoebox, and shoves it under his bed.
I just love that image. The Gestapo is tearing apart Rome looking for priceless treasures, and the most famous trophy on earth is just gathering dust bunnies under a bed next to some old loafers.
And it stayed there for the entire duration of the war. Gestapo agents actually came to his apartment at one point and searched it, but they didn't look in the shoebox. That is how close we came to losing the physical symbol of the entire game.
That is absolutely incredible. But then the war ends, the tournament returns, and we start to see this shift. It goes from being a fragile experiment to a genuine sociological power. And we have to talk about 1954, the miracle of Bern.
This is West Germany versus Hungary in the final.
And for anyone listening, you have to realize the Hungarian team in the 50s wasn't like the Hungary of today.
No, not at all. They were the mighty Magyars. They were, and this is not an exaggeration, arguably the greatest football team to ever play the game. They hadn't lost a single game in 4 years. They were like the Harlem Globetrotters of soccer, but in a real competitive sense.
And they had already played West Germany in that same tournament, right?
They had beaten them 8-3 in the group stages. It was a humiliation.
So it's David versus Goliath, except Goliath had already beaten David to a pulp a few weeks earlier.
A perfect analogy. And you have to remember the German context. It's 1954. West Germany is still in ruins in many places. The world despises them. They are psychologically broken, physically divided, and still carrying the immense guilt of the Holocaust and the war. No one, Absolutely no one expects them to win.
But they do.
But they do. They play Hungary in the final in Bern, Switzerland. It starts pouring rain, which helps the German style of play. They go down 2-0 early, and everyone thinks, here we go again. But they fight back, and West Germany wins 3-2.
And this does something profound to the German psyche, doesn't it? This isn't just a sports victory.
Historians and sociologists argue it was the true end of the Second World War for the German people. It was what they call the Wir sind wieder wer moment. We are somebody again. It allowed for the birth of a new, non-militaristic civic nationalism. For the first time in decades, Germans could wave a flag without it signifying aggression or conquest. It was psychological rehabilitation on a national scale, delivered by 11 men in cleats.
That's a perfect bridge to our next section. Because if a single game can heal an entire nation, what on earth is it doing to the individual brain? Because I'll be honest, when I watch the US team or even my local club, I am not a rational person. I'm just a bundle of nerves.
You are experiencing what social scientists call identity fusion.
Okay, break that down for me. Is that different from just being a really passionate fan?
It's very different. A fan supports a team. They might buy a hat, they enjoy watching. Identity fusion is when the boundary between your personal self and the group completely dissolves. The team is not them. The team becomes an extension of me.
So when the US scores a goal, I didn't just watch a goal. In some psychological way, I scored.
Biologically, yes. Your brain floods with dopamine and testosterone as if you personally achieved that victory. It's an ancient evolutionary mechanism. The success of our tribe is the success of the individual.
But what about the other side of that? The loss.
That's the cortisol spike.
Yeah.
When the team loses, your body doesn't process it as, oh, that's a shame. It processes it as a personal physical attack. It triggers the exact same stress response as being punched or insulted or threatened.
That explains the 3-day emotional hangover I always have after a big loss.
Yeah.
It's actual physiological trauma.
It is. Your body's just flooded with stress hormones. And all of this is amplified by another concept called collective effervescence. That's a term from Emil Durkheim, one of the founding fathers of sociology.
I love that term, effervescence. It sounds like champagne.
It's a great word. It really captures that bubbling electric energy you feel in a crowd. When you are in a packed stadium or a crowded bar and everyone screams at the same instant for a goal or a foul, your individual ego just dies for a second.
You become part of something bigger.
You become part of a single emotional organism. It's a secular religious experience. The stadium becomes the cathedral, the players are the clergy, and the winning goal is the miracle everyone came to witness.
The notes here also mention this concept of liminal time. That feels connected to this.
It's crucial. Liminal comes from the Latin word for a threshold, a space between two states. Sociologists argue that the World Cup creates a liminal time where all the normal social rules are temporarily suspended.
Like a hall pass from reality.
Exactly. Think about it. During the World Cup, you see things that just don't happen in normal life. Political rivals who despise each other might hug in the street after a goal. A CEO and a factory worker are suddenly equals, wearing the same jersey, screaming at the same screen, drinking the same cheap beer. The normal social hierarchy just dissolves.
It's a shared narrative that overrides all the daily fragmentation of our lives.
We crave that connection, but, and we have to go here, this intense passion, this tribalism, it has a really dark side. It's not all hugging strangers in a bar. The data on domestic violence, for example, is terrifying.
Yeah, I saw the statistics from the UK and Australia. They're really hard to read.
They are. We see these significant, measurable spikes in domestic abuse reports during the World Cup. There was a landmark study from Lancaster University in the UK that looked at the 2002, 2006, and 2010 tournaments. They found that reported incidents of domestic abuse rose by 38% when the England national team lost.
38%. That's horrifying. But what about when they won? I would assume everyone is happy and the violence would drop.
And that's the most chilling and counterintuitive part of the findings. The reports rose by 26% even when they won or drew.
Wait, even after a win, why would that happen?
Because the primary trigger isn't sadness or disappointment. The trigger is high emotional arousal. It's the adrenaline, it's the cortisol, and it's almost always mixed with heavy alcohol consumption. That biological cocktail lowers inhibition and increases aggression. So if someone has a predisposition to violence, the sheer intensity of the game brings it to the surface, regardless of the final score.
It's a really sobering reminder that this tribalism cuts both ways, which brings up the nationalism aspect. Michael Billig has this term, banal nationalism. What does he mean by that?
Banal nationalism is basically the background noise of our national identity. It's the flag flying on the post office. It's the anthem at a school assembly. It's the currency in your pocket. Usually it's passive. We don't really think about it.
It's just there.
Right. But the World Cup takes that banal nationalism and turns it into hot nationalism. It activates it.
It makes it emotional.
You can even weaponize it because to love us so passionately often requires an opponent, a them. And that can slip very, very easily from patriotism into xenophobia. We are good implies they are bad. Our victory is deserved implies their loss is their fault.
We've seen that repeatedly over the years. The chanting, the racism in the stands. It's the place where the beautiful game can get really ugly.
It is, but at the same time, it can also offer this incredible path to healing. We talked about Germany in '54, but the Brazilian story is, I think, even more dramatic. You simply cannot understand the modern nation of Brazil without understanding the mongrel complex.
Complexo de vira-lata. I remember reading about this. It's fascinating.
It is. This goes all the way back to 1950. The event they call the Maracanazo. Brazil was hosting the World Cup for the first time. They built the Maracana, which at the time was the biggest stadium in the world. 200,000 people inside for the final match. All they needed was a tie against their little neighbor, Uruguay, to win the World Cup on home soil.
The party was already planned.
Oh, completely. Newspapers had already printed Champions of the World headlines for the next day's edition. It was seen as a foregone conclusion, and they lost. 2-1. And it didn't just lose a game, it broke the country.
Broke the country.
In a deep psychological way. The famous playwright Nelson Rodriguez coined the phrase complexo de vira-lata, the stray mongrel complex. It was this deep, internalized national belief that Brazil was fundamentally inferior, that despite their size and resources, when it really mattered, they would always bow down to the Europeans or the North Americans. They felt like a stray dog mongrel that didn't deserve a pedigree.
So how do they ever fix that? Because when I think of Brazilian football now, I don't think of a stray dog. I think of swagger. I think of yellow jerseys and dancing and joy.
Pelé, that's the one-word answer. In 1958, an unknown 17-year-old kid comes along. And that Brazilian team, they didn't just win the World Cup in Sweden, they redefined the physics of the sport. They introduced the world to Jogo Bonito, the beautiful game.
It wasn't just about winning, it was about how they won.
Precisely. They proved that they didn't have to copy the rigid, disciplined, often cynical European style to be champions. It could be Afro-Brazilian, creative, fluid, improvisational, and still dominate. They cured the national trauma through aesthetics.
Yeah.
It was a cultural revolution as much as a sporting one.
I love how the team itself can become a symbol for where society is or where it wants to go. There was a similar case with France in 1998, wasn't there?
Absolutely. The Black Blanc Beur team. That translates roughly to black-white Arab.
Right.
The team was led by the brilliant Zinedine Zidane, who was of Algerian descent. At the time, France was going through, and frankly is still going through, a massive identity crisis about immigration, race, and what it meant to be French.
And they won the tournament.
They won on home soil against Brazil. And for that one brief, shining moment, it symbolized a new, multicultural French identity. You had 1 million people of all backgrounds celebrating together on the Champs-Élysées. It briefly seemed to heal these deep racial divides and showed how the World Cup can project these idealized social narratives. It creates a myth of unity we can all believe in, even if just for a month.
It's not always the reality, but it's the aspiration. But then, decades later, we have another national trauma for Brazil.
Yeah.
2014.
The 7-1.
I still remember watching that game live. Germany 7, Brazil 1. In Brazil.
Yeah.
In the semifinal. It felt like watching a slow-motion car crash.
Yeah.
I actually started to feel bad for them.
It was the Maracanazo all over again, but maybe even more humiliating because of the sheer scale of the defeat. It completely shattered the modern myth of Brazilian invincibility. It triggered this massive wave of a national introspection in the country about corruption, about their preparation, about their place in the modern football world. It was a cultural shock that went way beyond soccer.
So let's pivot from the fans in the stands to the guys in the luxury boxes, the politicians. Because if the fans are feeling this deep identity fusion, the governments are playing a totally different, much more calculated game. Let's talk about soft power.
This is the realm of the political scientist Joseph Nye. Soft power is basically the ability to get what you want through attraction rather than coercion or payment. Hard power is sending an aircraft carrier or imposing economic sanctions. Soft power is hosting the World Cup.
It's a branding exercise for a country.
It's the ultimate branding exercise. You are sending a message to the entire world that says, we are modern, we are safe, we are open for business. Look at our shiny new airports and stadiums.
But the history of this shows it can be incredibly cynical. Mussolini in 1934.
The 1934 World Cup in Italy was essentially a fascist rally with a soccer ball at the center of it. Mussolini allegedly handpicked referees for Italy's games. The whole event was used to showcase the supposed vigor and efficiency of the fascist state.
And then you have Argentina in 1978. This one, to me, is just chilling.
It should be. The military junta that had taken over the country was desperate for legitimacy. They hosted and won the tournament. But the horrifying detail that emerged later is that the ESMA, the Navy School of Mechanics, which was their main torture and detention center for political dissidents, was literally a few blocks away from the stadium where the final was played.
So prisoners could hear the cheers.
Prisoners have testified that they could hear the roar of the crowd cheering for Argentina while they were being tortured by the Argentine government. It's the darkest possible example of soft power I can imagine, using the noise of the crowd to literally mask the screams of your victims.
Let's look at a more positive, or at least a more complex, modern example. South Africa, 2010.
The first ever African World Cup. A huge moment.
What was the goal there from a soft power perspective?
The primary goal was to dismantle Afro-pessimism. There was this prevailing narrative in a lot of Western media that an African nation just couldn't handle a modern logistical mega event. The stadiums won't be ready, it won't be safe, it'll be a disaster. South Africa wanted to prove them all wrong.
And did they?
In terms of image, absolutely. They pulled it off, they proved they could do it, and you had the vuvuzela, that long buzzing horn that everyone remembers.
That's why I remember the vuvuzela.
The broadcasters absolutely hated it, but the locals insisted, no, this is our culture, this is how we celebrate. It became this amazing symbol of local identity asserting itself against globalized broadcast norms.
But then you have the most extreme case of all, Qatar 2022.
Qatar is the ultimate soft power project. The numbers are just staggering. They spent an estimated $220 billion. For context, South Africa spent maybe $4 billion. Russia spent around $12 billion.
$220 billion. That's not a sports budget, that's a defense budget.
And that's exactly the point. For Qatar, it was a defense project. They're a tiny, incredibly wealthy peninsula in a very volatile neighborhood. By hosting the World Cup, they made themselves the center of the global conversation. They became indispensable. You can't just invade or bully the country that's hosting the World Cup without massive global outrage. It bought them diplomatic insurance.
But it also brought the microscope. This is where the term sports washing really entered the mainstream.
Correct. Sports washing is the idea of using the glamour and prestige of sport to scrub away a dirty human rights record. With Qatar, you could argue it backfired in some ways because the Western media focused so intensely on the terrible abuses of migrant labor and the country's laws on LGBTQ rights.
So did it work as a soft power play?
It's subjective. It depends on who you're trying to impress. In the West, it was controversial, but in the global South, in the Middle East, in much of Asia, it was seen as a massive success, a moment of Arab pride. It showed that soft power is all about your target audience.
There's also this concept in the notes of the FIFA standard. I found this fascinating, the idea that FIFA basically operates like a colonial power.
It's often described as a state within a state. When a country signs the host city contract with FIFA, they are effectively agreeing to suspend some of their own laws. FIFA demands massive tax exemptions on all revenue. They demand special, fast-track courts to prosecute trademark infringement within hours. They demand these clean zones around the stadiums where only their official sponsors are allowed to sell goods.
So if I'm a local grandma who has sold empanadas on that street corner for 30 years and I'm not an official FIFA partner,
you're gone. The police, who are paid for by the local taxpayer, will remove you to protect the exclusive commercial rights of a multinational soda company or a credit card firm. That is the FIFA standard. It prioritizes the profits of the global corporate partner over the livelihood of the local citizen.
Which begs the question, why on earth do countries agree to this? Because the sales pitch is always, it's great for the economy, it's a tourism boom.
And that is what most independent economists call the economic impact mirage. People like Victor Matheson at the College of the Holy Cross have run the numbers again and again. The World Cup almost never makes a net profit for the host city or country.
Wait, really? Not ever? With all the hotels and flights and merchandise, I feel like I always hear about the billions of dollars pouring in.
That's revenue, not profit.
Yeah.
And a lot of that revenue just substitutes other spending. It's called the substitution effect.
Okay, what's that?
Regular tourists, the people who want to see museums or go to the beach, they stay away during the World Cup because they don't want to deal with the insane crowds and sky-high prices. So you're not adding new tourists, you're just replacing normal tourists with soccer fans. In many cases, it's a wash. Plus, there's the problem of leakage.
Leakage.
If you, a tourist, fly in on a foreign airline, stay at a global hotel chain, rent a car from an international company, and drink a global soda brand, that money doesn't stay in the local Brazilian or South African economy. It leaks back out to corporate headquarters in New York or London or Atlanta.
And the host nation is left with the bill for all the giant new stadiums. The white elephants?
Exactly. The city of Manaus in Brazil built a $300 million state-of-the-art stadium in the middle of the Amazon rainforest for 2014. There is no local team that can even come close to filling it. It's now a monument to public waste. Cape Town has a beautiful stadium from 2010 that loses the city money every single year just in maintenance costs.
So the projected $11 billion economic impact for this 2026 World Cup in North America.
You should take that with a massive, massive grain of salt. It's marketing math, not academic economics. It's designed to justify the public expenditure.
Okay, let's talk about winning. I love this theory, soccernomics. It's this attempt to turn passion and national pride into a mathematical formula. The authors Simon Cooper and Stefan Szymanski, they argue you can pretty accurately predict which countries will succeed based on 3 key variables.
Right. It boils down to population, wealth, and international experience.
Walk me through that. Why do those 3 things matter so much?
Okay, so population is just your talent pool. It's a pure numbers game. If you have 300 million people, you are statistically more likely to find the next Messi than if you only have 3 million people.
Makes sense. What about wealth?
Wealth, measured as GDP per capita, buys you everything else. It buys better nutrition for your kids. It buys modern training academies, professional coaching, good infrastructure. If your most talented kids are malnourished or they're playing on a dirt pitch with no shoes, you're starting at a huge disadvantage.
Okay, so based on that, the US and China should be the 2 best teams in the world, by a mile. They have the most people and the most money, but they aren't. Why not?
And that's the crucial third variable, international experience. It's the know-how. It's the tactical nuance and institutional knowledge that you can only get by consistently playing against the best in the world. Europe has this incredible density of high-level competition that allows them to learn and adapt much faster. The US and China are, historically, isolated from the world's football centers of gravity.
So they are the sleeping giants.
They are the ultimate sleeping giants. The soccernomics theory basically predicts that as the world gets smaller, as knowledge transfers faster through coaching and television and the internet, the math will eventually win out. It is, in their view, inevitable that the US and China will one day dominate world football.
Well, we're certainly seeing that shift here in the US right now. It's 2026. The game has totally changed. When I was a kid, soccer was for suburban Saturdays. It was, orange slices at halftime and minivans. Now, it feels central to the culture.
The 1994 World Cup, held in the US, planted the seed, the launch of Major League Soccer watered it, and 2026 feels like the harvest. We're seeing soccer move from a niche, immigrant and suburban sport to a central pillar of the American sports economy. Kids today are just as likely to wear a Kylian Mbappe jersey as they are a LeBron James jersey.
And the way we consume it has fundamentally changed too.
Yeah.
This is going to be the algorithm World Cup.
Think about the technological progression. 1954 was the radio age. 1970 in Mexico was the first World Cup broadcast in color television. That bright yellow Brazil shirt popping against the green grass literally changed fashion and design forever.
Right.
Now, in 2026, the primary lens through which millions will experience the tournament is the algorithm. It's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's short-form vertical video.
It's the fragmentation of memory.
It is. We aren't all just watching the full 90 minutes anymore. We are consuming the 15-second meme of a player's goal celebration or a fan crying in the stands or a hilarious blooper. The players themselves are no longer just athletes. They're global brands with millions of followers. A kid in Kansas isn't necessarily supporting their local team. They're supporting a striker from Norway because they follow him on Instagram. The loyalty is becoming detached from geography.
Speaking of geography, we are expanding to 48 teams this year. Is this a good thing or a bad thing for the sport?
It really depends on your philosophy. The optimist will tell you it's about democratization. It gives smaller nations like Iceland or Costa Rica or more African nations a chance to compete on the world stage. It makes the World Cup truly global.
And the pessimist, the purist.
The purist says it's dilution. Does it lower the overall quality of play? Are we going to get a lot of lopsided 8-0 scores in the group stage? Does it just make the tournament too bloated and long? We're going to find out in a few months.
Before we move on, I want to ask you about the winner's curse. This is a quirky little statistic I saw in the source material.
It's uncanny, isn't it? The data shows that whoever wins the World Cup tends to completely implode 4 years later.
Give me some examples.
Okay. France won in '98, then crashed out in the group stage in 2002 without scoring a single goal. Italy won in 2006, crashed out in the group stage in 2010. Spain won in 2010, out in the group stage in 2014. Germany won in 2014, out in the group stage in 2018.
That's a crazy pattern. Why does that happen? Is it just arrogance?
It's a mix of things. Complacency is a big one. The feeling of, we are the champions, we don't need to change anything. But it's also just the simple biology of aging players. You want to stay loyal to the heroes who won it for you, but 4 years later, they are 4 years older and slower. And tactical trends in football change incredibly rapidly. If you stick to the system that won you the last war, you're going to lose the next one.
We have to touch on the dark side of the organization itself. I mean, we can't do a deep dive on the World Cup without talking about FIFAgate.
2015. The images of the FBI raiding the luxurious Baro Lac Hotel in Zurich at dawn, Swiss agents holding up white bed sheets to hide the faces of these powerful FIFA officials as they were being arrested. It was like a scene out of a movie.
And what did that investigation ultimately find?
It pulled back the curtain and confirmed what many had suspected for years, that the bidding process for hosting these tournaments was fundamentally corrupt. We're talking about suitcases of cash, bribes, kickbacks, vote trading, millions and millions of dollars moving through offshore accounts to secure hosting rights for countries or lucrative TV contracts.
It completely stripped the veneer off FIFA's non-profit status.
It showed that while the game on the field is beautiful, the business being conducted in the backrooms was incredibly ugly. The longtime president, Sepp Blatter, was eventually ousted in disgrace. But the big question remains. Has the culture actually changed? Or did they just get better at hiding it? At its core, FIFA is still a massive, opaque monopoly with very little external oversight.
And speaking of moral ambiguity, we have to talk about the hand of God,
Yeah.
Maradona, 1986.
The ultimate Rorschach test of sports. It's the quarterfinal, Argentina versus England. Maradona, who is quite short, goes up for a header against the tall English goalkeeper, and he punches the ball into the net with his hand. The referee misses it. The goal stands. Argentina goes on to win.
To the English, he's a cheater, a fraud, the ultimate villain.
But to the Argentines, he is a trickster hero, a god. You have to remember the context. This was only a few years after the Falklands War, where Argentina had been defeated on the battlefield by the British. So for Maradona to beat England, even by cheating, or maybe especially by cheating, it felt like a form of divine justice. It was the clever street urchin outsmarting the powerful imperial giant. It just shows that morality in football is entirely a matter of perspective.
Before we wrap up, I need closure on the trophy itself. We know it survived the Nazis because it was hidden in a shoebox. But where's that original Jules Rimet trophy now?
It's gone.
Gone, like it's in a museum somewhere.
No, I mean gone. Vanished. Stolen. In 1983, the trophy was on display in Brazil because Brazil had won the tournament for a third time in 1970, which meant they got to keep it permanently. Thieves broke into the display case at the Brazilian Football Confederation headquarters in Rio and stole it. It was never recovered.
Never. Not a single trace.
The widely accepted theory, though it's never been definitively proven, is that it was immediately melted down by the thieves and sold off as gold bars.
That is just tragic. The actual object that survived World War II, that traveled on the Conte Verde, the cup that Pelé held aloft, just melted down for cash.
It's a tragic end for the object, but poetically, maybe it fits. The physical cup is gone. But the idea of the cup, the story, the myth, it's stronger than ever. It proves that the real value was never in the gold itself. It's in the shared meaning we all project onto it.
So here we are, February 2026. The circus is about to come to town. We've talked about the psychology, the economics, the politics, the history. What's the one big takeaway for people to hold on to?
I keep coming back to that phrase from our source material, the last global campfire.
It's a beautiful image.
I think it's the most accurate one. We live in such a fractured digital world. You have your curated newsfeed, I have mine. We can't even agree on a basic set of facts anymore. We're fragmented into a million tiny subcultures. The World Cup is the only time humanity collectively agrees to watch the same story at the same time and feel the same things. We crave that. We are desperate for a narrative that is bigger than our own individual lives. We just want to belong to something.
But the question you pose in the notes is a critical one. Can it survive its own success?
And that's the final provocation for everyone. As we expand to 48 teams, as the money gets exponentially bigger, as the sports washing gets more and more blatant, as it becomes just another asset class for billionaires and sovereign wealth funds, does the soul of the ritual survive? Or does it just become a hollowed-out content engine for corporations? Can we keep that global campfire burning without just selling off all the wood?
That is the question for you, listening right now. When you turn on your TV this summer, don't just watch the ball. Watch the crowd, watch the advertisements, watch the politicians sitting in the luxury boxes.
Be a sociologist. Observe the tribes in action.
And try not to let that cortisol spike ruin your entire week if your team loses.
No promises on that one.
Thanks for diving deep with us. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.